G'day and welcome. I'm Peter Bender from Dubbo Commercial, and today you've joined us on our series on how to buy your first commercial property in 70 days. And today is exciting because today we're going commercial property shopping. Yes, we're going to actually look at the what you're going to buy and where you're going to buy it sort of type elements on getting that first commercial property. For those who'd like to have a bit of clarification on direction on where we're going, okay, today we're going to revisit a frame of reference. We're going to have a look at the types of commercial properties. If you haven't already seen that video, that's a separate video at the start in the first week, then you probably want to make sure you have a look at that as well. But if you're already aware of what you're looking for, great, but we're going to make sure you don't get like a dog box in Dubbo. And the final thing is we're going to have a look at where you can source listings to have a look at the options that are available in the particular area that you're looking for. So in the earlier video that we spoke about on looking at the types of commercial property available, we discussed things that will make it easier for you on your first property. Your first property is probably not going to be your last one. It doesn't need to be the absolute gold mine that'll satisfy you for the rest of the life. It's probably more appropriate to think of it as something that you're going to cut your teeth on. And you need to recognize you're probably going to make a few what we used to call green mistakes, as in, if you're green like a veggie and the first time you looked at your commercial property, you're going to make some mistakes, no matter how much prep and how much support you've got on there. So we want to make sure that we try to reduce the situation of you having issues like errors that may even be costly or may just give you the wrong mix in regards to what you're looking for in commercial property. Some of these things that we're looking for is you should have a natural affinity for what you're looking for. So if you've been living in workplaces or had lots of work in commercial properties, like say you've been an office person in the CBD or small offices, then light commercial is probably something you look for. If you love the smell of grease and iron filings, then perhaps something in the industrial space is what you're looking for. If you're big on commerce and transport of goods, then have a look at a warehouse. There's all sorts of options, and even things like small offices for accountants through specialist areas. Although I'd leave the specialist areas like medical and fast food corners for when you're further on in track. You just want something simple that you're passionate about and have an affinity for. Also, you want to have a look at the area. So what is the geography? I always am a strong believer on having a good look firstly in your local area. It may be that you don't actually buy anything there, but it's a good place to cut your teeth and get an understanding on what types of commercial properties are available. Are you looking at steel? Are you looking at concrete? Are you looking at tilt slab? Are you looking at single standalone? You're looking at small minor complexes? All those sort of options are always available in most people's local area. So we're looking particularly something that you've got a natural affinity and a skill set for. And you usually find that you've got mates and friends and people who can give you some advice if you're in a local area. So target firstly, okay, what type of property you're looking for, and secondly, where is it that you're looking to buy one from. Now, in regards to a frame of reference, we need to remember we're investing here, and the underlying two laws, so to speak, will be risk versus return and supply versus demand. If you've got a lot of supply, then that's great if you're a buyer. If you've got a little bit of supply, as in only a few properties are available, then that's hard for you as a buyer because it limits your choice, and quite often you may not be getting the value you look for. So your first decision is, okay, well, do we buy now or do we buy later when something comes on board? So supply and demand, and you'll get a feel for that when you start looking. You're putting your search criteria in commercial real estate for argument's sake.com. It gives you 3 listings. You go, ooh, this is going to be tough. Or it may come up with 3,483 listings. Oh, this is going to be tough too, but a different type of tough because you've got a lot more to work through. Now, in regards to risk and return, we won't go too much today in regards to monetary returns. We're just looking for the actual properties. But if you've got like a 4% loan, and you are going to get a property that gives you a 3% return, then that's not enough for you to pay your bills and pay your mortgages. Now, if you're going to be negatively geared, that's fine. But if you want a positive cash flow each month, and that's what I recommend, you need to make sure that you have an appropriate return. Now, the downside is the higher the return, the higher the risk. I've had so many countless inquiries from people saying, oh, I want an 8 or 10% return. Look, cool, no worries. Here's a dodgy building in a dodgy neighbourhood with a dodgy tenant, but you'll get your 8.5%, 9.5%, 10.5% return. Oh no, I don't want anything like that. I don't want to be having risk. Okay, well, here's a 25-year lease on a warehouse that's run by Woolworths, and you're going to get 2.5% to 3%. Oh no, I can't handle that. I need a higher rate. But it's an unbreakable law, risk versus return. So if you find something that looks really out of the ordinary, like it's a 10% return in a really good suburb and a really good tenant, then be very wary because something isn't right. The natural balance of things is a normal risk and return. So be aware of that when you work out how much return you need and what sort of risk you're looking for. In the Wide Bay area, I work in Queensland, sort of coastal central Queensland. You would find that right now a normal return is about the 5.9 to about 6.5%. So once again, that will be the natural flavour for things here. So if you started looking at properties that were 3%, either they're overpriced or there's something particular about them that justifies a lower return. Like I said, it could be that Woolworths tenant. Or if you're looking at something that's got 10%, you need to have a look at that. It may be an older building in a more regional town, more country town area. So once again, risk and return, it doesn't matter where you are. It's all over the place. On the Gold Coast right now, you find that return is about 4.5%. It's lower than the Wide Bay area because they have more available options right now because their economy is a little bit struggling. It's based heavily on housing and tourism, and both those are pretty well capped for a little while, which has all flowed into their economy, and that gives their rate of return lower. So once again, if you're on the Gold Coast and you found something for 6 or 7%, like that might be normal in the Bundaberg region, but you may find that that's very high for Gold Coast. So have a look to make sure that your risk and return levers are all being beamed the right way. Beam me up, Scotty, as they say. If the ratios are wrong, then get out of town, get out of Dodge. It's not worth the risk. They're the ones where you will find you'll make the mistake. Sometimes people will get caught away with being greedy and thinking, great, look at this, I got an extra 2%, not fully understanding that there are consequences to that. If you know how to manage it and you've got that affinity, then great, go for it. But as a newbie, first person, first property, remember risk and return and supply and demand. Now, Australia's a big country, so let's talk about cycles in commercial property. Now, it doesn't matter what you look at. Everything has seasons, whether it's crops, whether it's finance markets, whether it's property markets. And as I tell people, every boom follows a bust and every bust follows a boom. So have a think about the area that you're looking at, the geography, and what is the state of the economy in that space. To give you a bit of a hint, right now, Victoria and Melbourne have probably just finished their low point of their economy and starting to pick up. Queensland is pretty strong, but starting to have a few clouds coming up. And I always have a philosophy that it goes south to north. So what happens in Melbourne then goes to Sydney, then goes to Brisbane, then goes to far north Queensland. Perth and South Australia, obviously north and south is different, but once again, they will have their peaks and troughs. Perth is quite vibrant right now. So when you are looking for your commercial property, no matter whereabouts you are in Australia, have an understanding of where you are in the cycle, because that will factor in what the future, probably the 6 or 12 months. If you're buying on a rising cycle, that's pretty good for property values, but it will be low for net returns because your rent can't go up as fast as the property prices. If it's flat, okay, that's cool, it's pretty rare, but if it's a flat period, that gives you a bit of stability to work things out. If you're an economy that's going down, some people say, oh, I don't buy because the price will go lower, but good luck if you can pick when it's going down. But what you wouldn't be doing is paying a peak price in a region where the economy is going down a little bit. Now, when you go looking on places like realcommercial.com, which is another website to have a look at. You can select types of commercial property. You can look at warehouses, development land, offices, retail. It gives you a choice to work through there. So once again, just focus on your main type of property that you're looking for, but also have a plan B, because the Australian property market is not that big. For argument's sake, the latest figures are, and the gut feel of experience is, only about 10% of property in total in Australia is commercial. So for every 9 houses, you may have 1 commercial building. That gives you a bit of indication on the smaller number of properties and options available. So you definitely have a look. If you've got your heart set on that industrial shed, great. But maybe have a look at warehouses as well as a plan B, just in case you need to have a little bit of expansion. And it's also good to have comparatives. I always, when I do like appraisals or having a look at trying to do valuations on businesses, I always look at having 2, maybe even sometimes 3 different ways of looking at different measuring activities, so that I have a better understanding. And you can do the same with your properties. If you've got a feel for what's happening in your industrial sheds, also have a look at warehouses, and that will help you have another set of glasses. It's always good to have more than one set of glasses to have a look at what's going on in regards to pricing. All right, let's talk about where you can actually go shopping at. There's plenty of sites and people available, but 90% of the stuff that's available, you would look at CRE, commercialrealestate.com.au, and realcommercial.com.au. As a realtor, I actually like commercial real estate. It's better value. It has more properties on it, and whereas Real Commercial has fewer properties, and that's probably because they're more expensive to go on. And it's once again, it's a supply and demand. If my clients don't want to spend a large amount of money on their advertising, then they'll always go onto commercialrealestate.com. And if they've got a decent budget, we'll chuck it on both. So have a look at the 2. If you've only got a little bit of time, look at commercialrealestate.com.au as a first option. You've got plenty of options to filter by price and by type. And the other thing you can do is, when you're on those 2 sites, you'll start to recognize a few real estate agents may be there more times than not. So the first thing you need to recognize is, are they a commercial real estate agent, or are they a residential real estate agent who just happens to have a commercial property? If you've got plenty of choices in the search criteria, if there's 10, 12, 20 or more options to have a look at, then stick with the commercial ones, because those people know what they're doing, whereas the residential ones, something's just dropped in their pocket. And they're going to make a lot of mistakes, because like you, they're newbies. They're probably not experienced, not understanding of what's happening. And it's like the blind leading the blind. It's not a good solution. But you'll find that there's probably 2 or 3 players whose names pop up quite regularly. Now, one thing to note is commercialrealestate.com.au did a software change about 8 months ago, and what they've done is those realtors who came on first actually appear on the bottom of the list, so like irrespective of when the listing date is, and those who come in now, they are higher up on the list. So just be aware of that. That's a quirky thing with that particular site, and you may be better off. Quite often you can filter on the website for newest releases as opposed to special or oldest. Sometimes you might be better off starting with the oldest, because you'll get the more experienced players like, I was one of the first ones over there, and my stuff's always down the bottom just to make life hard. So have a look at the oldest listings, because also, if they are seriously an older listing rather than one of the first agents that came onto the website for them, you'll find that may be where the price opportunities are available. So if you go through the 2 respective commercial real estate sites, you'll find some regular real estate agents. So pick mine, Bundaberg Commercial, for argument's sake. What I would suggest is also go onto the website for those people, because quite often they will have properties that aren't actually on that the normal mainstream sites, and it also gives you a bit of a better feel for the agent, because you may get a profile on the agent. You can see what's sold by that agent, whether they're new in the industry or whether they're experienced. It gives you a little bit more information, and really is at this stage it's all about information input into you. We're looking at bulk information, so I want you to try and get as much as you can, and you'll find, there's a philosophy in real estate about farming a territory. So if you're looking for a property in Bendigo, commercial property in Bendigo, you may find that there's one or two specialists who work in Bendigo, and they're obviously the go-to people for you to work with. Don't approach them just yet, but just get a feel for who they may be, and put them on a piece of paper, and we'll show you how to approach and talk with them later on. So your homework for this week, should you choose to accept it, and you will, is have a look through the type of properties you want in the area, the geographical area that you want, and start churning through and have a look at how many are available and what price ranges you are. You can put them in a spreadsheet, you can write them down on a scrap piece of paper, you can hit saved on the software for the commercial website. There's plenty of those sort of options available. Whatever you want to do, just start to get them through. We're not looking at this stage at culling them. Just if it looks like something, if it's a 50-50 or better option for you in regards to yes, you think this is a go, then just save it for now. What we want to do is get you a big basket of shopping stuff. It's like being online. When you go to your cart, you've got all these other bits and pieces. Well, we're going to start dropping them off in the next video. All right, I hope you're enjoying it, but this is the fun part. We're going to go commercial property shopping. So get on those websites, start pulling down some sites that you're looking for and particular candidate properties, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care and God bless.